All right, we are live. Okay, we'll just wait for some people to trickle in here. I'm just trying to figure out how to get us live on Instagram as well. Let's see. Just about to go live on Instagram. Give me a second, guys. Okay. How's it going, everybody? We have 30 plus people on here, which is great. Just about to go live on Instagram. Okay, it seems to not be working. Give me a second. Okay, Instagram is currently not working. I'm just going to go on Instagram on my phone. But everybody, put in the chat where you're from. Let us know where you guys are from. For some reason, I can't see names on Facebook, unfortunately. It just says Facebook user. But hello, everybody. We have somebody from Michigan checking in. We got the UK in the house, Memphis, Tennessee, Ireland. We have France, Ohio, PA, not too sure where that's from, but we have Denmark, Iowa, we have Quebec, Canada. Okay, I'm just going to go live on Instagram over here. Give me a second, guys. How are you guys doing today? We're going to learn a lot over the next hour and a half. I have some really cool stuff prepared for you guys. Ready? This is going to be a training on how to handle flare-ups. Let me actually just share this. Going live on Instagram. We have 59 people in here so far. All right, how's it going, Instagram? We're doing a live stream right now. If you haven't tuned in yet, you can tune in in the Facebook group, Community of Thrivers. You can tune in on YouTube. It's also in a few other places, but I'm just going to leave this over here so you guys can tag along. Okay. So who else do we have? Alberta, Canada. We have Sweden, Texas, Winnipeg, another UK. We have Germany, Florida, Israel, Massachusetts. We have Vancouver. That's in my backyard. I was actually in Vancouver this morning doing a cold dip. A bunch of the friends and I, we jumped in the water. It was freezing, but really woke us up. We have Netherlands in here. Who else? How's it going, Jackie? Nice to see you in here, Jackie. You have been absolutely crushing it. If you guys haven't already, go to my YouTube channel, CFS Recovery. Go check out Jackie's video. Super inspiring. We have Los Angeles in the house. Okay. And what else? Arlington, Texas. Dallas, Fort Worth. Awesome. Cool. So let's jump into it, guys. We have each other for the next 90 minutes. If you're watching this right now, then you're dealing with some mysterious, debilitating symptoms, and you're looking for a solution, obviously. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because we work very closely with so many people in our programs in Recovery Academy, Recovery Jumpstart. So we're seeing patterns and things that people are doing and not doing that is either moving them forward in recovery or moving them backwards. And we're able to, myself and the coaches, kind of compile these ideas and take the best of the best golden nuggets. And the intention for today is to bring you guys so much value that you're certain and you're confident and you have takeaways to apply to your own recovery to help you move forward. So there's really three things we're going to be talking about today. Okay. Number one, it's going to be how to handle flare-ups, or some people call these crashes. I call them adjustment periods, right? So we're going to talk about how to handle those times when your body is just going crazy with symptoms, because people go into the cycle dozens, if not hundreds of times during their recovery journey. So that's number one, how to handle flare-ups. Number two, it's going to be understanding the whole concept of progress cycles. right? There's something called progress cycles. Once you wrap your head around that, it's going to be so much easier to navigate the flare-ups and also this whole cycle of getting better and feeling like you're going worse, getting better, feeling like you're going worse, feeling like you're going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? Because that's always very what do you call it? It can really get in your head when you're on this cycle. But once you understand the cycle, it makes it so much easier to build and keep momentum. So that's number 2, is understanding progress cycles. And number 3, it's this recent discovery that we've been implementing into the program. And I just posted on my Instagram yesterday, if you want to go check it out on my story, CFS Recovery. There have been so many amazing breakthroughs in the program. So the things we're working on right now, I mean, there are people who couldn't leave their house for a year, only for doctor's appointments in wheelchairs. And now they're going out again to watch their kids' hockey game, or to go out for lunch again for the first time in 4 years, or drive a car again for the first time in multiple years, right? And especially with Christmas coming up, the holidays can be a very difficult time, very emotional, of course, because you're seeing your family and your friends have a lot of fun, and you want to take part. And when you can't do that, it just hurts a little more than any other time of the year. So that's why I wanted to hop on here and chat with you guys and share a lot of the things that you can implement. So before we jump into this, let's see how many people we have on here. 66 people, and we have 16 people live on Instagram. So I think everybody introduced themselves. This call is going to go for maybe 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, if I have some extra energy. But I was trying to figure out a way to share my screen, and I had an iPad and everything, but it wasn't working. So we're going to try to see what we can do and make do with what we have. So just to get a feel for the room here, okay? Obviously, everybody here knows what it's like to flare up with symptoms, right? And flare up with, headaches and pain and fatigue and shortness of breath and all of that stuff. If I had to ask you how many times you flared up, just put it in the chat right now. Comment. How many times have you flared up in the past? Is it 10 times? Is it 100 times? Is it 1,000 times? Is it every day? Is it every week? Let's just get a feel for the room here. Put it in the comments. Let's see what you guys are saying. For me personally, in total, I probably flared up. It was nearly every day for a couple of years, so at least 1,000 times, right? Let's hear it. Okay. Someone said 50 plus times, hundreds or more. Yep. Every day for 2 years, daily, over 100. Yeah. So these are very, very common, at least once a week. Cool. Almost after every 2 to 3 months, and it's getting frequent. Yeah. So flare-ups. Flare-ups are very, very common. These are part of recovery. Now, what you have to understand is when you have flare-ups, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? And you probably heard online, avoid symptoms at all costs, or the less symptoms you have, the better. And obviously that's the goal. But when you're in a place where you're trying to move forward in recovery, the symptoms are part of it. The symptoms are part of the game of recovery. It's no different. And I'm going to share a lot of stuff that a lot of you guys have probably already heard me say on the YouTube channel or on these calls. But at the end, the third thing we're going to cover is something we haven't really shared much. So stick around for that. But when you have flare-ups, I want you to think of this analogy, right? When somebody is working out and they want to get stronger, they want to get in shape, and they're not really in shape, in order for there to have change in the body, right? In order for you to implement change, your body has to go through an adaptation period. So if you're in a place where you're struggling to walk to the washroom, right? Or struggling to leave the house for a 5-minute walk, in order to go from walking 5 minutes to walking as much as you want without thinking and worrying about any consequences at all, to go from walking 5 minutes to walking normally, that's a big jump, right? Your body is going to have to adapt to that phase. So when someone's working out, if they want to put on 10 pounds of muscle, or they want to be able to do 10 pull-ups instead of 1 pull-up, the only way to get there is to very strategically expose their muscles to that new stimulus. That's how you actually get stronger, and how you get more fit, more in shape. Same thing when it comes to learning things, right? You go through this learning curve. When we were 5 years old or 7 years old, and we first started learning math, at first it was very difficult, right? You're learning these numbers, you're not sure what this means and that means, and next thing you know, you're looking at graphs and algebra, and you're kind of unsure, right? But once you get the hang of it, math problems become easy to solve and they become intuitive. But at first, it's very difficult. So any kind of change we're trying to implement for your body or your mind, it's going to be difficult at first, and it's going to be uncomfortable. That's the word. So the flare-ups, you first have to understand that they are part of the process. People think that they are roadblocks in recovery. They're speed bumps. That's what they are, right? So don't retreat at the first sign of symptoms. We're going to talk more about this later, but I'm not saying go for a run and go push yourself and ignore all symptoms at all costs. What I'm saying is you need to keep your emotions as neutral as you can when the symptoms come up, right? Because what happens is when you have these flare-ups, that's essentially your body going into the survival mode, right? And that's the whole reason we're here in the first place, is because for whatever reason, you have gone beyond your stress threshold, right? Everybody has a certain stress threshold, right? And then life happens. Maybe there's financial stress, relationships, work, maybe a death in the family, something happened, and maybe you get COVID, right? And then that pushes you over your stress threshold, right? Once you go over that, now your body is in a fight or flight state. And the problem is it doesn't naturally come back down for you people, right? Other people, it can come down, but once you go over that limit, it will stay there, and it will actually continue to become like a cycle, right? Because you're going to have a lot of physical symptoms that the doctors can't explain. And obviously that gives you a lot of anxiety. So now you're anxious about the symptoms, and that just turns your nervous system on even more. So it becomes a downward spiral, and then you start getting more symptoms, and then you start worrying, wait, those palpitations, am I having a heart attack? The shortness of breath, are my lungs going to shut down? Boom, more anxiety, which equals more physical symptoms. Now, I'm not saying that this is just anxiety, right? There's anxiety, and then there's about 50 other symptoms, right? So you have to understand that your emotions play a huge role in these flare-ups, massive role. And you probably had times, here's a perfect example. You probably had times where you were in the car or you were going to a doctor's appointment and you actually felt a little bit better. I'm not saying all the time, but there were some times where you did something and you thought that would completely wipe you out. But because you were so focused on the environment or talking to a friend or doing something else and your mind was preoccupied, it didn't have space to worry as much as it used to. And then you felt a lot less symptoms, right? And then maybe when you get back home and you actually sit down and start to think like, ooh, was that too much? Maybe I overdid it. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Boom. That's when the symptoms hit you, right? And that's when the snowball happens. So your emotions are like pouring fuel on the fire. If you think about symptoms, it's like a little fire starting in your brain. That's your fight or flight center, right? It's becoming more active. Emotions are like pouring fuel on that fire. And the more active that fight or flight center is, the more it's going to try to lock you down into survival mode, right? So I say fight or flight, but I should actually correct myself. It's actually freeze state, right? And we see people bounce between the freeze state and the fight or flight mode, which is why a lot of times when you flare up, you're going to feel your heart rate high. You're going to feel, a lot of adrenaline. You're going to be shaking. You won't know what to do. So it goes from that, and then it swings in the opposite direction as well, where you are absolutely fatigued, where it hurts to even try to sit up out of the bed. It hurts to even think sometimes because you are so fatigued, right? So you go back and forth between this fight or flight state and a freeze state, but you're never really in a calm state because your nervous system, it needs to be recalibrated. And when I say nervous system, it's your brain that needs to be recalibrated. That's where brain retraining comes in. But back to talking about the flare-ups, right? Understand that these are on the way to recovery. And the better you handle the flare-ups, the more you're able to move forward in recovery, right? Because when you're able to calm your emotions during the flare-ups, right, we're calming down the fight or flight center, essentially. So what I did, and this is what we teach people in the program, number one, I mean, you have to understand what's going on first. This is where watching a lot of the YouTube videos comes in handy, attending live calls like this, seeing other people's wins, seeing other people making progress. That just flips a switch in your brain where you go, aha, okay, I can get better from this. It's totally possible to recover, versus, maybe searching up forums and stuff like that where people say you can't get better. So once you really understand this stuff, it makes it easier to come to some kind of logical conclusion during the flare-ups versus staying stuck in your emotions. The more emotional you are, the more intense your symptoms will be. 100%. We've seen that across the board. It's scientifically proven. Your amygdala is hyperactive when you are flaring up. And that's why sometimes it's hard to think straight when you are in a flare-up, right? But what I did, and this is what we tell people, is when you are flaring up, something you could tell yourself is, it's just my nervous system. It's just my nervous system. And you have to understand that there's one problem we're trying to solve here, not 50 problems. We're not trying to solve the muscle pain and then the shortness of breath and the heart palpitations and the food intolerances and the insomnia and the temperature intolerance and the light and sound sensitivity plus 40 other things. If we try to chase those symptoms down individually, you will be in this cycle for years and years and years, versus if you try to solve one problem that's driving this entire thing, which is a hypersensitive nervous system. So that alone, understanding that you really only need to solve one problem, right? It's a big problem. I wouldn't even say problem. It's a challenge, right? We need to solve this one challenge versus solving 50 challenges, right? It's a lot, it makes it a lot simpler to focus on the right things, which is, okay, it's just my nervous system. It's just my nervous system. Calm down, Miguel. Your lungs aren't shutting down. It's just your nervous system. Miguel, your heart is fine. You've had the tests and scans. This is your nervous system. The way to fix your nervous system is to try to keep your emotions as neutral as possible. It's not going to be perfect. You're still going to feel very anxious, but you want it to be, you want to keep things under control as much as you can. You want to bend, but don't break, essentially, right? So if this is making sense, put in the comments, right? Because this is the first thing I want to talk about, is dealing with the symptom flare-ups. The fact that they're on the way, not in the way, they're not roadblocks. The fact that, you need to stay as emotionally neutral as possible. That's another big thing. But is everything making sense so far, everybody? I just want to make sure I'm not throwing too much information at everybody and that this is making sense for you guys, right? So put in the comments. I just want to see what's resonating with you. What was your biggest takeaway from the last 10 or 15 minutes? Let's see it. I wish I knew all of this 3 weeks ago. Yep. I wish I knew this stuff as well. It's actually interesting because it seems so simple, but harder to implement than it is to say. And I totally understand that. Yes, making sense. Yes, we spend so much time worrying about symptoms. Yep. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So your symptom flare-ups, and I'll tell you right now, you're going to have them for a while. And some of them are going to be more intense. Some of them are going to be a breeze, walk in the park. You'll barely notice them. It's actually rare that people don't have symptoms when they're in the thick of recovery. Like towards the end, when you're more functional, starting to get your life back, you have more and more windows where you have little to no symptoms. But in the beginning, for the most part, you're kind of treading along like through the mud of recovery, right? There's going to be discomfort there almost all the time, right? It's just a matter of, okay, layered on top of that little discomfort, what does it look like when you have these big waves of intense symptoms, right? Cool. I'm just reading the comments here. Awesome. Yeah. So cool. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, the recovery is supposed to feel uncomfortable. It's definitely not fun. Like as much as I know about recovery right now, and I kind of recovered twice because I got out of the hospital. I got my life back after about 2 years working full time, working out, all that. Took the vaccine, that destroyed me. and then went back to square one, and then I recovered from that again. Actually, I recovered even stronger than I recovered previously. So, I've definitely been through the ringer. I know it's definitely scary and uncomfortable. And even me knowing as much as I know now, like if I were to go back and if I were to put myself in your guys' shoes and feel the sensations you're feeling, I'd know how to handle them, but it would still be uncomfortable. I'd be like, oh crap, this sucks. You know, I would still feel the discomfort, right? So you just need to keep applying this knowledge, right? But the biggest thing is when you have a flare up, you have to try to put out the fires in your brain, put out the fires on your emotions as much as you can, right? Emotions are what's going to not only lengthen your adjustment periods, but they're also going to make them feel more intense, right? So let's say if I was recovering and I was going throughout my day and I walk more than I normally walk, and now my legs are burning and I have shortness of breath and I sit down, naturally I'm going to think to myself, ooh, that's a tough one. Maybe I shouldn't have walked that far. And then I'd probably ask myself that. And then I'd immediately tell myself, no, that's fine, right? I walked that far. It's fine. We're still here. There's discomfort. Okay. That's part of the game. That's the right way to do it. You just say it's part of the game. It's part of the process, right? Just like someone working out, they're sore. They're not going to be sitting around wondering, why am I sore? I shouldn't be sore. Well, don't you want to add on more muscle? Don't you want to get stronger? Oh yeah, I do want to get stronger. Okay, so why are you saying that you shouldn't be sore? That's how you get there. So you have to come to terms with the fact that you're just going to feel symptoms. What you don't want to do, right? If I were to sit down and my legs are burning and I have shortness of breath, what I don't want to do is say, ooh, I really shouldn't have done that. Oh no, I messed up. I'm going backwards now. Now I'm flaring up. I should have known better. You start beating yourself up about overdoing stuff when the whole, the whole part of recovery, a huge portion of recovery is going into adjustment periods. Like that's when your body is adapting, right? It's how you respond to the symptoms emotionally during those flare-ups. That's what determines if you get to the next level, if you stay the same, or if you put yourself backwards. You have the choice here. That's the thing. You don't really have a choice in what symptoms you feel, but you do have a choice in how long those symptoms last and how intense you feel them. And the exact factor that leads to how intense or how long these symptoms are is your emotions. Think about it like almost like one of those DJ things where you could turn the knob or volume up and down. When I was flaring up with symptoms, I knew I had to turn the volume down on my emotions. And I didn't believe most of the stuff my mind was telling me. It would tell me things like, oh, Miguel, your legs are throbbing. Maybe you have a blood clot. Ah, shut up, nervous system. I just turned the volume down, right? So, and obviously, I do want to make it clear that this is as long as you've had multiple tests and scans done, right? You have to rule out other things. Make sure you go to the doctors, see your specialist. They're probably going to refer you around. If your blood tests and scans are pretty much normal, or maybe you have one blood marker out, if they can't explain what's going on and the doctors are telling you, yeah, you're clear, there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing we can do for you. If they're telling you that, then you can apply these principles. If they're telling you it's another thing, if you have like diabetes or whatever, obviously those are physical, like very physical things in the organs in your body that you have to fix, or with your blood, things like that, right? What I'm talking about here is the specific nervous system issue of being very hypersensitive. And typically you find out that this is the case, that you have CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, through a process of elimination. You kind of have to do a whole bunch of other tests and figure out what you don't have in order to arrive at the conclusion that you have any of these things, right? So I just want to make that clear. But when it comes to the symptoms, yeah, you want to turn the volume down on your emotions and thoughts around them, because you just can't buy into them, especially when you understand that a lot of your logic will go out the window when you're flaring up. You know how many times that I sat there and the ceiling, I was lying down, the ceiling was spinning in circles and it's like zooming in and out, and I'm feeling like throwing up, and I'm like, this is it. This is it. I overdid it. I'm going to pay for it now. The amount of times I did that, I can't even count. And that's part of the reason I dug myself into such a deep hole, because I was on a perpetual downward spiral. So That's number one, right? It's dealing with symptoms, okay? Number two, you guys ready for number two? And this is talking about progress cycles. And adjustment periods. This really ties into the progress cycles. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see if this works, because I want to show you guys something. I'm a visual learner myself. So if I hear something and I also see it, it's just so much easier to grasp the concepts. So let me go ahead and share my screen window. Yeah. Ideally, I would have had my iPad, but this will do. Okay. So you guys can see my screen here, right? You guys can see this? It's just a big blank screen. Looks like Photoshop. Let me know if you guys can see this. I just want to make sure I'm not drawing and you guys aren't seeing anything. I know Instagram can see it. Let's see. Can you guys see it on YouTube, Facebook? Okay, awesome. Awesome. Cool. So really quickly here, right? Let's just do a quick recap of what I just talked about. What it looks like is, let's see, let's change colors here. What it looks like in an adjustment period, right? You typically increase activity, you increase stimulus, you do more things or you think more things. It's either physical, mental, or emotional. It's those three buckets are always the case, where you expand capacity in one of those things or multiple of those things, right? For example, if you're home all day, here, let's actually do a real life example here, right? We're talking to an individual in the program, right? If they're bedridden for months and months, right? Their activity level is, let me just go like this. Their activity level is, like down here, right? Now, if they have a special family event and then they go out, right? First of all, getting to the car, sitting in a restaurant, right? Those are physical things. And then it's a loud restaurant, lots of lights and stuff. That's a little more physical too, right? And then there's like the cognitive aspect of it. Cognitive. They're talking with people, they're catching up, more stimulus. And then emotionally, maybe they're laughing a lot, right? A lot of happiness, which is good, right? But it is stimulating. It's stimulation. So you increase activity, increase capacity, or increase stimulus in these certain areas. What you're going to have up here, and I'll make it like orange, is now you're going to start to feel symptoms. And let's say you go home, right? Even after you've gone home and you've stopped everything you're doing, you've now exposed yourself to this level of stimulus, and you're going to feel symptoms that are slowly going to trickle down. Let me extend this. They're slowly going to trickle down even after you stop. So that's kind of what a cycle looks like. You increase activity and then you have the symptoms, right? You experience the discomfort because your body just doesn't know what to do with all the stimulus. It wants to retreat and go into fight or flight mode. Now, this is the crucial part here, right? Let me expand this. This is the crucial part. It's what happens over here. Let me just do this. It's what happens in this area. Okay. When you have symptoms, what do you do? Right? When it's over here, when your symptoms are at the height, are you calming yourself down? Are you reminding yourself it's a nervous system? Are you, most important thing, the golden rule in recovery, are you responding well to the symptoms? Because that's what determines whether these symptoms are going to go haywire. Like if you start panicking and really panicking, getting super anxious, your symptoms could snowball and your symptoms will get way more intense. Let me go back here. Your symptoms will get way more intense, right? Versus if you respond well, the symptoms will start to go down. So it's really in the response to symptoms that determines whether you get better or get worse, right? Whether the symptoms increase or decrease. Now, that's what a flare-up looks like. Increase activity, the symptoms come on, and then the crucial moment where you have control is how you respond to the symptoms. Now, let's say you don't respond well to symptoms, right? I kind of just broke it down here. Your symptoms will increase, right? Which means your overall capacity is going to be lower. It's going to get lower and lower every time. But let's say you respond well to the symptoms and your symptoms come down, right? And you handle it well and you have a decent experience with the flare up, right? I'm not saying great experience because, I mean, who likes feeling tons of symptoms? So I'm going to say decent experience with the symptoms, right? If you have a decent experience and it doesn't become this re-traumatizing event, because that's what it can feel like. It feels re-traumatizing if you go down the downward spiral. It's like, oh, last time this happened, I got super sick. Last time this happened, I was in bed for 3 months. It is very traumatizing. It can be. So if you respond well, here's what this looks like. Let me extend this. It looks like a progress cycle, right? So you increase activity, right? And then you feel the symptoms, and then you have to bring capacity back down, right? And it looks like that. In terms of activity, you do something, you pull back. You do something, pull back. Now, this entire thing here, this is a progress cycle, okay? One cycle. You increase activity, your symptoms flare up, and then you handle it like a champ. You tell yourself, this is a nervous system, okay? I'm not going to freak out. This is part of the process. The real recovery happens inside those flare-ups because that's when you're really rewiring your brain, right? This is like a progress cycle. Now, here's the interesting part. Let me do this. You will have multiple progress cycles in recovery, right? And let's say the trajectory to recovery looks like this. And this is not to scale, by the way. This should really be way smaller in the grand scheme of things. Nope. So it looks like that. Sorry, I am butchering this. It looks like that. What? Okay. You have these progress cycles, and sometimes your flare-ups are smaller than other times, right? So you'll have this. Let me just duplicate this. Nope. Okay, so you have this. Let's say that's a progress cycle, okay? Sometimes you have small flare-ups. Sometimes you have really small ones. Sometimes you have massive ones. But here's the thing, those massive flare-ups, that's where you can also gain a lot of ground, right? If you handle it well. Because what it looks like is every time you go through a flare-up, or every time you increase activity and go through a flare-up and handle it well, it's like it unlocks another level in recovery. Then you go on to your next progress cycle, your next kind of increase and then flare up, and then your next one and your next one. And then recovery is made up of dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of progress cycles. And they could be small, they could last one day, they could last a few days, they could last up to 2 months or 3 months. We've seen progress cycles last, a few months with people in the program. And here's the thing, it's kind of like an illusion. Because if you're in such a long flare-up, it's been 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, you're thinking, this is not good. I'm definitely not getting better. I'm just feeling symptoms all the time. How is this moving forward if for the last 4 weeks, I'm doing less than I was doing, a month prior, right? But what you don't realize is you are in a progress cycle. You're in this new level of recovery where if you come out of it, if you handle it well, that's equivalent to like 4 or 5 smaller flare-ups, and then you make a huge leap. So we see it all the time where, like I said, people will be in an adjustment period for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks sometimes longer. And then, that takes the ultimate patience and the ultimate belief in the principles and doing the same things that others before you have done to get better. But if you're able to handle it well, you come out of this on top. And these people, they go from barely being able to function, right? For 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, they're like, coaches, are you sure this works? Like I'm praying to God that this works because it don't feel like it. And we're like, trust us. We've seen this before. Your body is under construction. Your nervous system right now, this second, when you're flaring up, this is where the recovery is being done. This is where your nervous system and your body is recalibrating itself. And then seems like some kind of miracle after 5 or 6 weeks or 2 weeks, however long that progress cycle is, they come out of it with a massive uptick in energy, a massive reduction in symptoms, less brain fog, more clarity. The mood comes back and they're like, oh my goodness, I feel way better than I did before. Like, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like you could be in the thick of it for multiple weeks at a time, and then boom, within 2 days, you're feeling way better, right? So this is basically how progress cycles work, right? And here's another analogy, because I'm full of analogies for you guys. I want you to think of it like, it's kind of like a video game, right? A video game, let's look at Super Mario, right? Or Tetris. Just think about it. When you start the game in a video game, it's pretty easy. You start on super easy mode, right? And as you get to the next level, in order to get to the next level, there's like a boss level. Let's just say Super Mario. There's some boss, some kind of thing to beat in order to unlock that new level. In recovery, the boss in each level of recovery is the flare up. That is the boss. So you can either beat the boss or you get beat by the boss. If you get beat by the boss, you have to restart that level again, right? Same thing with recovery. If you let the symptoms get the best of you, if you start to panic, if you start to go in a downward spiral, well, guess what? When you come out of that flare up, you're going to start that level again. You don't necessarily go back to square one unless unless you really dig yourself into a hole. It's rare. But if you don't handle a symptom flare well, you restart the level. Okay. In a video game, if you lose to the boss, if you lose to, I don't know, Super Mario, it's Bowser or whatever boss is at the end of each level, you restart and you have to do that level again. So now you've added time to the equation. You've added time to recovery when you didn't handle it well, right? So this all comes back to the number one golden rule, which is your success in recovery is determined by how well you respond to the symptoms, not how much control you have over the symptoms, not which symptoms you have. It doesn't matter. It's what is your response to the symptoms. Okay, so that's if you don't handle it well and you have to restart the level. But in a video game, what happens when you beat the boss, right? Of course, you go on to the next level. You're granted access to the next level. And then you do the level, boom, 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 you go through it. And then there's another boss, right? And same thing, you're presented with an opportunity. Hey, here is your opportunity to level up, or you might have to restart the level. It's up to you. The ball is in your court. Depends how you handle it. Just like with recovery, you go on to another progress cycle. Your next flare up, how are you going to handle that, right? And it's tricky because every boss in a video game, they have different specialties. They have different moves. It's not just the same thing over and over again. One of the bosses in the video games, he has fireballs he's thrown at you. The other one can flap around and fly all over the screen and you can't touch him, right? Or this other one has a superpower, right? So you have to navigate these different levels, these different bosses, and develop these skills to get past the next boss. Okay, back to recovery. Every level in recovery, or most levels, are a little bit different. And the thing is, these flare-ups, it's not that they have superpowers or secret things. It's a different subset of symptoms. They may look different. Maybe this flare-up, you might have dealt with headaches and nausea. Next flare-up, all of a sudden, you're getting lots of heart palpitations and shortness of breath, right? Because your brain understands that once you get comfortable or once you learn to deal with one symptom very well, and it can't keep you stuck in survival mode, it's going to try something else to get under your skin. Your brain knows which buttons to push. Your brain doesn't care about how you feel. It doesn't care about your goals and dreams and aspirations. At the very primal level, your brain's job is to keep you alive, right? So whatever it can do to try to keep you in fight or flight mode, in survival mode, it will do that. And the only way to do that, it's not going to tell you to slow down. It doesn't speak language, but what it can do is trigger symptoms to try to keep you put. So let's say you start going back out into the world, I want to hang out with my friends. Oh, that was a fun hangout. Uh-oh, I'm flaring up now. Your brain goes, maybe you shouldn't be exposing yourself to that because your body can't handle that much stimulus. So in order to stop you from doing that, we're going to give you chest pain, burning legs. We're going to give you mood swings. We're going to give you insomnia. We're going to give you this and this and this. And once you get comfortable with those things, the next time you flare up, it's like, okay, those didn't work last time. Let's try something else. Okay. Let's try panic attacks. Let's try light sensitivity, right? Let's try more intense mood swings, So that's kind of how it works. Is that making sense though? You have bosses, you have boss levels, or every level has its own boss. And in order to move forward in recovery, you have to beat that boss. And that boss it's basically an adjustment period, a flare up. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense, guys. Yeah, here's a good question that I'll tie into what I just said. Absolutely. Feeling depressed is absolutely a symptom that your brain can give you, right? Absolutely. Very, very common. And the thing is, you may have some lingering feelings of depression. I don't even like to say depression. You can feel depressed. Does that mean you have depression? You just caught it from somewhere? Yeah, you may have some imbalanced chemicals. It's what it is, but you're feeling depressed. It's not a permanent thing, right? At least that's my perspective on it, right? I felt times when I was extremely depressed in recovery. And who wouldn't be? I mean, you lose who you are, you lose your personality, you lose your ability to connect with the world. You feel very isolated. So, yeah, absolutely. Depression is a very real thing. And at certain stages in recovery, it will come out, it will be more apparent, right? And we notice that, especially towards the end, when people start feeling less physical symptoms, they'll actually start to feel more emotional symptoms, feeling lethargic, feeling depressed, feeling like they're kind of lost in life. And that could be a whole nother topic. But just to stick to this is how progress cycles work, right? You level up, you level up, you level up. And guess what? Nobody just goes through an entire video game and never restarts a level. There's going to be some boss that challenges you. Just like in recovery, there are going to be certain symptoms that challenge you. I call it your kryptonites. What are your kryptonites? What are the things that really scare you? Because for some people, it's really interesting. Some people are terrified from the pain. They are absolutely terrified from the pain when they first come into the program, and then we fix it. But they don't care at all about the brain fog because they don't value, they weren't an avid reader. They weren't into, studying a whole lot. So it's like brain fog. Yeah, I don't care. Give me brain fog. Give me that all day. I don't care. But the pain, no, I don't want the pain. So that becomes their kryptonite, right? That's what gets them emotional. And that's the button that the nervous system knows to press in order to keep them in survival mode. Does that make sense? So just think about that. Your brain knows which buttons to press to keep you in survival mode, right? There are other people who they'll have chronic pain, but they don't care. It's like, oh, give me all the chronic pain. I can do this all day. I've learned to live with it. But if I have brain fog, I don't like that one. Don't give me brain fog. I really don't want that. And when they feel brain fog, they start getting really anxious and frustrated, right? It's not just fear and anxiety. It's also frustration. Any kind of emotions can be stimulating on your nervous system. Now, I'm not saying become complete robots, but to a certain degree, you have to tone down the emotions that you're feeling, So this is how it works. This is how the progress cycles work. In terms of length of progress cycles, like I said, you can have some flare-ups that last a day, maybe a couple days. You can have flare-ups that last 2 months, right? And that's the tricky thing about, trying to navigate this by yourself, right? I would say try to join a community, join our Facebook group, watch the YouTube videos. We have Recovery Academy, which people are doing amazing in. We have Jumpstart. Just get around other people so you don't have to do this all by yourself. And not only will you notice the patterns in yourself, The patterns in, sometimes it lasts 2 days, sometimes it lasts a month. You're going to start getting used to that, but you're seeing it in other people too. They're going to be doing great one week, or feeling much better. And then the next week, you could totally see someone's personality change even in the course of 24 hours if they're in an adjustment period, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just science. That's just human nature. If you start flaring up, obviously you're more emotional. You're more scared. You're more fearful. So the personality, I want you to understand that your personality does change throughout recovery, and it can change day to day, which is why, you can feel like you're going crazy sometimes. You're not going crazy. I mean, it's just science. Your brain chemistry is trying to rebalance itself. So try your best not to buy into what your brain is telling you or the thoughts you're having, especially the anxious thoughts, when you are in flare-ups. It's not a reliable source because it's an emotional brain. And most of it is not going to be true. It's just hypotheticals. What if this? What if that? Right? So they're hypotheticals. So in terms of the progress cycles, it can last a couple of days. It can last a few months. Nonetheless, if you are responding well to the symptoms, you are going to continue increasing and increasing and increasing your capacity. And overall, you're just going to be moving up in recovery to the point where you have thriving health. It's a cycle. That's why I call it cycles. You go in and out of it, right? You don't just deal with a big flare up and handle the symptoms well, and then it never comes back. Just like if someone's working out, they don't just have a great workout and then boom, the muscle just keeps coming on. Now you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it over and over again so that your body adapts, So awesome. Looks like you guys are getting a lot out of this stuff so far. Yep. My kryptonite, heart rate through the roof, very common. That was my kryptonite at one point. And you'll have, like I said, at different levels of recovery, in different progress cycles, you're going to have different symptoms pop up. It's not always going to be the same. I've had times where I had nausea for, 10 or 15 progress cycles. And then the next one, zero nausea. And it was something completely different, right? We call this symptom rotation as well. Symptom rotation. Your brain is trying to look for other symptoms to keep you in a fight or flight or survival state. But when you know what's happening, when you know what's going on behind the scenes and why it's doing that, why your symptoms are changing up, it's almost like you can almost laugh during the flare-ups. It's like, I know what's happening. I already know. My brain thinks it's going to trick me. It's giving me this and that, but I already know what it's trying to do. So we actually, it's funny, we get it quite a bit in our programs. It's like they come in 1 month and they're freaking out about the symptoms. Very anxious, very doubtful that these principles work. And then a few months down the road, they're like, oh, guess what? Guess what? My nervous system tried on me this time and I didn't buy into it. So it's just really funny to see how just educating yourself about this will help so much in your recovery. And the more you educate yourself about what's going on, about the main principles of what's going on, the easier it is to get through these adjustment periods, because now you're not relying on blind faith. Now it actually makes sense. It's like if I were to build a house with bricks, I'm not a builder, by the way, maybe there's a specific way, but okay, a Lego house, right? If I want to build a Lego house, okay, I know if I put this brick here, if I keep doing that, there will be a house. There will 100% be a Lego house, because that's just how it works. Whereas if I didn't really know how Legos work, if I didn't really understand the physics of things, if I was like a 3-year-old and I never played with Legos before, it's like, maybe this will work. Maybe if I do this, maybe if I put these blocks here and there, maybe there will be a house, maybe. So there's a difference between having blind faith and being absolutely certain that you're going to recover. And the more you understand this stuff, not only that, but the more you implement and you start to see that it actually works on a micro scale, the easier it is to recover, because now you're not operating on blind faith or just trusting what I say or what other people have experienced. you're trusting what you firsthand experience, but that only happens once you start really trying to apply the principles and seeing the small changes in yourself. So once you start going through it's usually your first 4 or 5 progress cycles. That's what we have in our recovery system. We really try to guide people and hold their hand as much as possible. A lot of support for those first 4 or 5 adjustment periods. If you get through those first 5, you know what happens. Like, the trajectory of these adjustment periods, what to expect, but it's just a bit scary kind of jumping into it on your own when you're first starting out. So those are the progress cycles. Let me see, or let me, comment, add in the comments if this makes sense to you guys. And also, what was your biggest takeaway? So we have 120 people on this live right now. I want to see at least 30 people comment. I want to see what your biggest takeaways are, just to give you guys a little test, see if you guys are paying attention here. And I know you guys might have brain fog, which is okay, but let's see. I want to see what you guys say. Yep. So great to have a plan to implement, not just panic over symptoms. Absolutely. Absolutely. What else? Let's hear it, guys. Yep. Long APs, those are like my favorite ones. That's where we see the biggest breakthroughs in some people. Really long APs. I already improved a lot from other symptoms due to progress cycles. I like the video game analogy. Every boss is different. Yeah, there's a lot of different bosses, and they have all these weird tricks too. They have their own specialties. Flareups. You'll see some interesting things come up. You'll have like weird, like mouth pain or like ear pain, the most random things. So it's pretty astonishing what the nervous system can muster up in this little cocktail of symptoms. I call it like a little cocktail, an adjustment period cocktail. It's just a mix of a bunch of different symptoms, and it goes, here you go, drink it. I'm like, I don't want to drink it. I don't want to feel symptoms. No, please drink. I drink it and experience the symptoms, and I'm like, yep, this is uncomfortable, but I know it's just the nervous system. Yep. Don't listen to your emotionally stressed brain. Yep, absolutely. Each adjustment period can be big or small. That is right. And I want to touch on this as well, because I'm not going to dive too deep into it on this call, because this requires more of like a personalized approach, which is what we teach in the program. We like to work very closely with people, but adjustment periods can be big and small. So that then leads to the question of, okay, well, what do I do in an adjustment period? How much do I pull back? Is it like 60%, 80%, anything like that? And this is actually what we're going to cover a little bit more in topic number 3 for today. But it's impossible for me to tell you guys, without knowing your situation, exactly how much to pull back, because there's a lot of factors. You could pull back physically, you could pull back mentally. What we see people miss most of the time is pulling back emotionally, like to start overthinking things and being fearful. If you just calm that down, guess what? Your capacity increases quite a bit, or you bounce back out of adjustment periods way faster. So we'll talk about this one in a bit. I want to be an AP expert and have confidence that I can get better, that I can get through better than before. Yep. AP expert. I love it. I love it. And the way to be an AP expert, at the very root of all of this, the more neutral you can stay through an AP, the more of an expert you are. So just an example, when I got the I don't want to get this taken down. When I got the shot, right, little booster, my second little shot, holy cow. I remember I was playing golf at the driving range, and all of a sudden my heart rate wouldn't go down, and it was stuck at like 150. And then I started getting dizzy. And then I started getting pins and needles all over my body and panicky. And I knew this feeling. I was like, oh, shoot, I got it again. Nervous system is hypersensitive. So I went home that day, and I think I was in my bed for probably like 16 hours because I had a massive throbbing migraine and even shortness of breath. Heart rate wouldn't slow down. And even just trying to roll over, I'd feel prickly needles all over my body. So like I barely moved for 16 hours. And I feel like I handle it like a champ. I pretty much told myself, yeah, I've felt this before. This actually feels like a crash. Okay, well, nothing I can do except lie here and do the brain retraining for chronic pain, for all the headaches and body pains I was feeling. And I lay there, did not freak out because I knew exactly what was going on. And it did last quite a while. I mean, 16 hours is quite a long time. And then the next day I stand up and my heart rate just almost jumps out of my chest. I'm getting like arrhythmias. And then what I did, I mean, back in the day, I would have freaked out, probably would have called 911. And I just told myself, yeah, I've called 911 before. What are they going to do? Do an EKG, put me through a scan. I wait there for like 4 hours and they tell me I'm normal. Yeah, I'm not going through all that. So I told myself, I told my body, and I'm not really recommending this for you guys, but I'm just saying, me personally, what I did is, okay, heart rate's high. It's skipping all over the place. What? It's going to kill me? Okay. And then what? There's nothing I could do if it decides to do that. So I just kind of went about my day. It kept doing that. And then I kind of freaked out for the first 2 or 3 seconds of it until I realized, oh, wait, if I freak out, this thing's going to get worse and worse. It's going to be more intense. And I don't want to prolong this any longer than it has to be prolonged. So yeah, that's kind of what I would tell myself. So I would say at that time I was expert level adjustment period handling. As an AP expert, and the coaches in the program, I would say they're AP experts. Same thing with a whole handful of people in the program. Like, we've had people get COVID again. Like they had long COVID, got better, and then get COVID and be wiped out, but they handle it like champs, and then they bounce back within a week or two, sometimes 3. But yeah, the more neutral you can be throughout the flare-ups, the better. Awesome. Yep. Intensity of APs doesn't dictate where you are in a progress cycle. Absolutely. You can be further ahead than you think. This is so true. So true. There were times a year after I got out of the hospital. So I got out of the hospital in the springtime. A whole year later, I remember I was in an adjustment period because I had like a tooth infection. I was on antibiotics, and I felt worse for that few days than I did getting out of the hospital. So old Miguel would have been like, oh no, are we starting back to square one? Is this, did I just cancel all my progress? But then I asked myself that for about 2 seconds, literally. And I told myself, why are you talking like that? Why are you talking yourself back into the hole? Like, talking like that is not going to do you any good, Miguel. Don't do that. In fact, like, obviously you're going to be tired. Obviously you're going to feel like crap. I mean, you're in an adjustment period and you had an emergency root canal and you're on antibiotics. Of course you're going to feel like crap. So I really just try to tie it back to logic as much as I can, especially when I was getting emotional. I would question all the time my emotions. And I would say, is that a real emotion? Am I really feeling that? And then when there was no obvious answer to what was causing the emotion, and I found myself looking for reasons for this and this and this, like, oh, I'm feeling stressed out, I'm feeling terrified because of this. If there was no actual reason, I'd be like, okay, it's my nervous system. I blamed everything on the nervous system. And that really helped me. Yep. Oh yeah, very true. Interesting how we can be told by the coaches what's going on, but we panic and forget and need assurance. Lovely coaches. Absolutely. You could be told this 100, even 1,000 times. You could actually completely understand it. It could all make sense to you and you could be making great progress, but you can have that big flare up that makes you question everything. It makes a lot of logic go out the window, right? Like I said, it turns on the emotional part of your brain. And when your emotions are high, logic is down. It's complete opposite, right? More emotion, less logic. So when you're very logical, a lot of this knowledge can go out the window sometimes, which is why, if you're in the program, you can message the coaches anytime. And we're able to kind of pull you out of the trenches and stop you from going on that downward spiral, really just act as a safety net for you guys. So, yeah. So good to know that when people experience less physical symptoms, they will start to experience more emotional symptoms. And beginning to experience this now, so nice not to be afraid of the symptoms regardless. Absolutely. Yes. As the physical symptoms start to peel away, the emotional symptoms will start to come up. Depression, anxiety, overthinking, overanalyzing, things like that. So just other ways for your body to kind of try to keep you in survival mode. Yep. Turning symptom dial emotions way down. Absolutely. And what else? Yeah. The main goal still remains keeping the nervous system calm no matter what symptoms come up. Yes. No matter the symptom, doesn't matter. I don't care if it's 2 symptoms or 40 symptoms you're dealing with. I don't care if it's super intense or really light. You handle it the best that you can. This is a good comment. My takeaway is that I'm home here. Everyone understands, and I feel understood. We totally understand. In fact, it's really interesting. Don't do this, but if someone were to search up how many people can recover from CFS, or what's the recovery rate, or is it possible to recover from CFS, you're going to see a lot of garbage saying, oh, you can cope with it, but you can't recover. You can manage the symptoms. Not true. We've seen so many people come in, recover, and live a better life than they lived before. Not just physically, but also mentally. They're less stressed. They overthink a lot less. Just so many benefits come after recovery, right? So where I'm getting at is the people on this call right now, there's 123 people between Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. There's like 140. But we are the people who, according to medical science, the medical field, shouldn't recover and have to manage this for the rest of their lives. Luckily, I met a doctor who helped me, and he said, okay, well, yeah, this can be classified as CFS. You have all the symptoms, but depending on what doctor you go to, they're going to give you a different diagnosis. Someone who is diagnosed with CFS can go to a different doctor who specializes in pain, and they're going to diagnose you with fibromyalgia. And then you go to a long COVID clinic, they'll diagnose you with long COVID, right? So they're different names for the same thing, which is a hypersensitive nervous system, right? So everybody on this call has the ability to recover, no matter where you're at. And I think there's a big misconception out there. That's the public sentiment is starting to shift as like YouTube pages like mine start to grow. Raylan Agel, Heal with Liz, my buddy Sean Casson. This information is starting to really pick up. And especially for people in our programs, these people, we're not the first people they went to. They were working with doctors and specialists, 10 or 15 of them. And then when they work with us and then they get better and then they have a check-in with a specialist, neurologist or whoever, and then the doctors are seeing that they're getting better. They're like, wait a minute, you were on 15 medications when we were working together and you were getting worse. Now you're on 2 medications and now you're functioning because you were in a wheelchair the last time I saw you. And it starts to raise eyebrows and raise some ears where they start asking, wait, what did you do to get better? So I think the medical industry is starting to pick up on everything we're doing, everything the whole space is doing to help people get better. And I think in the very near future, they're going to change that online to, no, you can get better from CFS, not cope with it, not manage it. You can totally get your life back. In fact, you're going to be the 2.0 version of yourself. You're not going back to your old life. That's a thing too. don't try to go back to your old life, because your old life is what led you here in the first place, right? We're going to talk about this in a little bit when I talk about my third topic. But what you're aiming for is a better life than you had previously. And that is our goal for everybody we work with. It's not to get you to where you were, it's to get you beyond that, to surpass your quality of life beforehand. Because if we just get you to where you were before without changing, how you think and your habits, you're going to end up in the same place. Highly likely you're going to end up in the same place, right? So just a few things I wanted to share there. So let's go through some of the other takeaways, how AP symptoms can begin to vary as you get used to one or another. Yep, symptom rotation. That's exactly what it is. Let's see. Yeah, this is a good one. I'm thinking of my nervous system as a manipulative person that needs ignoring. Don't buy into its tactic. Yeah, very true. Let's see. Here we go. Emotions were my biggest challenge once I got good at not feeding the emotional stories. The quicker I have been recovering. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Also, I thank my nervous system for protecting me when I need protecting. I ask it to chill out until I really need it. I used to do that all the time too. I was like, okay, thanks, nervous system. If there was a tiger right in front of me, I would definitely need that adrenaline. But seeing as there's no tigers, you can respectfully calm down, and then it would calm down in a few minutes. But you have to be the boss of it. You have to tell it. You have to let it know. And you have to believe it when you talk to the nervous system. Let's see. All right, here we go. Biggie Smalls. Shout out to Biggie Smalls. He asked a question here. He's become reincarnated. So Biggie Smalls asks, does physical activity make you crash though, regardless of what you believe mentally? I'm confused. That's a great question. It depends. Only expand to the level of symptoms that you can handle, right? So some people, depending on your level of confidence, during my later stages of recovery, I could push myself very hard. I could bring on a really thick adjustment period, really, really thick. Palpitations, shortness of breath, because I knew how to handle it and my body was able to handle it. When you're just starting out, you're a lot more sensitive. And sometimes, no matter how solid your mindset is, the symptoms will be super, super intense. And I think everybody has certain limits on what they can handle at that stage of recovery. So only do what you can handle, right? Only do enough activity to bring on symptoms that you're able to keep under control. The moment you start feeling like you're losing control of your mind and your response to symptoms, that's when it's definitely time to slow down. And you don't want to reach that point to slow down, because by that point, you've already really cranked up your nervous system. So keep it under control. This one, just really quickly, yes, for females, APs do happen more around period and ovulation time. The reason why is because even for regular women, that's a lot of stress on their body. So everything you feel when you're going through recovery, it is amplified. Because again, your nervous system is hypersensitive. If you get stomach cramps and pains, well, guess what? When your nervous system is hypersensitive, you're feeling that times 2 or 3. All the discomfort is amplified, right? So if you do have these times coming up, like it's that time of the month, you just have to pull back in other areas of life to create space, to create more capacity in your stress threshold, right? And that way, you don't get overloaded with stress from keeping up your walks, from seeing your friends, and the period, right? So remove the walks, remove the friend hangouts, or pull back on them, so that way there's space for your body to handle the period, if that makes sense. Hope that helps. Okay, well, let's jump into the third topic. And this is a topic that we've really been implementing for the last month and a half or so. And now we're actually bringing it into the program. Like, This is going to be an actual video module. It's going to be part of the plans and everything. Before that, I just really want to highlight this. 50 years for me, and I'm recovering really quickly. So happy for you. Love to see people recovering, especially after long periods of time. So let me stop sharing the screen. Okay, it's just me now. So topic number 3. This is what has been helping people go from bedridden for months to going out to eat for the first time in a long time. Going to watch a hockey game of their son for the first time in a year, after being housebound for that long. Going to enjoy the Christmas lights for the first time in years because they can walk around. They can actually walk around the neighborhood, right? Missing Christmas for years and then finally being able to do it. It's called gray thinking, right? We call it gray theory, gray, right? Anything but black and white, okay? When you have black and white thinking, you are highly emotional. It's all or nothing. And that's when your amygdala is the most active. And again, we can replace amygdala with survival center of the brain. The more black and white you're thinking and your perception on things, the more in survival mode you will be. Here's an example. And I used to have this all the time. It's the reason I was stuck for so long and I kept digging myself into a deeper hole. Because a lot of times we'll either say, I'm doing well, or I'm making progress, or I'm crashing. It's one or the other. It's for a lot of people, there is no in between. I'm moving forward or I'm moving backwards. I'm doing solid, I'm doing good, or I'm doing horrible, right? Even the way you perceive your symptoms, it can be very polarizing, right? If you are fearful of the heart rate, you say, I hate palpitations. I don't want to feel it. I hate it. I want to avoid it at all costs. I don't like it. So it creates this emotion in your brain towards that specific symptom. And the more emotional you are, the stronger that symptom will be, right? So, for example, with that, you want to start thinking about, okay, what's the opposite? What do I need to do opposite of that? If I hate the palpitations and I want to avoid it at all costs, I need to welcome it. I need to be like, oh, okay, yeah, palpitations are there. You have to be indifferent to it, essentially. And indifference towards symptoms is one of the key golden nuggets in the entire concept of responding well to symptoms. Indifference. You don't care, right? If it's if you're very upset and frustrated at the fact that for me, for example, I was a personal trainer. I was so mad, so angry, upset, and frustrated that I couldn't even walk. So I went from being very active to not even being able to feed myself. It's like the polar opposite. So I hated it so much. I was like, I just want to jump out of bed. I want to get outside. I want to live my life. And the more frustrated I became, the more frustrated I was, the worse I got, right? Because all your emotions are essentially a result of polarized perceptions. There's a lot of fancy words there, but essentially we want to move back to gray thinking, the gray zone, right? Just like with progress, you can be making very slow progress, but you're still kind of moving forward, right? You don't want to say, and then same thing with crashes. That's why I say adjustment periods. We don't even use the word crash in our program. And if someone says crash, we immediately say, hey, it's not a crash. Did you go back and watch that video module? Or we just had to reframe their mind, because crash is all or nothing, right? With activity as well. Once you start feeling symptoms, some people can say, I'm crashing. I need to go back and fully retreat, right? And they go back to their bed, hide under the bed for several days, terrified of the symptoms. And that's a sure way to keep your amygdala on, to keep your survival center on. So what you want to do is pull back, but don't completely stop everything. If you're going on multiple walks, if you're doing stuff, and then you have this symptom flare up, first of all, do not call it a crash. It's an adjustment period. And do not retreat all the way back to, let's say your activity is up here. Don't just go way back here, right? That's black and white. very polar. Stay in the gray area. Pull it back, but maybe down to about here, but you don't have to stop everything. So just pay attention to the extreme behaviors that you have with this illness. And absolutely, the truth or the solution lies somewhere in between. Thanks for sharing that. And another thing here, yeah, gray thinking has changed so many of us in the academy. Absolutely. We're seeing so many breakthroughs. The less extreme your perceptions are, the faster you will recover. I guarantee it, right? So what was I trying to say here? Pay attention to your habits, your physical habits. Do you go for a walk? Do you go get food, or do you go sit up in a chair for dinner? And then afterwards, when you start feeling symptoms, you go all the way back to your bed, hide under the covers, and don't move? Because that's a pretty extreme swing. You don't want extremes. Same thing with expanding activity, right? If you go from, I don't want to go out, I don't want to do this and that, let me just rest at home, to boom, all of a sudden going to see all your friends, going to like a birthday dinner party and going to this and that, it's too extreme, right? It's too much of a variance. Yeah, and shout out to Junior. You know, Junior's really been hammering this into the thrivers in the program. I actually wanted him to come on here, but he was feeling super sick. Let me see if I can get him on. I would love for him to come on and explain this, actually. Let me see if we could do an impromptu Junior call. I'll just message him right now. Free for 10 minutes to agree. Give me a second, guys. You're sick, but... Okay, I just messaged him. Let's see if we can get him on. So he explains it really well. Yeah, you know, we have a few sick coaches right now. There's something going around, but the less polarized you can be, the faster you will recover. So I'm just going to tell you the biggest leap I had in recovery. I was in the hospital. I was a month in. I was in ICU. I was pretty messed up, right? IVs, getting blood thinner shots in my stomach every day because I wasn't moving. They didn't want a blood clot. We were doing a lot of different stuff. And all my thinking was very polar. It's like, oh, if I roll over in bed, I'm going to crash more. If the lights are too bright, if I see a little bit of light, I'm done for. It's game over. If it's too noisy, I'm going to have a migraine for a week. So it's like earplugs, headphones, blindfold, not moving. It's kind of like a vegetable, honestly, and getting spoon-fed. I was terrified of everything because I thought one small thing and it would be game over. When my doctor told me about this being a nervous system and that, no, Miguel, you're not going to die from these symptoms. It's going to be uncomfortable, but you're not going to die. And at the end of the day, the ultimate fear was that this thing was going to kill me because it felt like I was dying. But when I knew that it couldn't kill me, a lot of the fear went away. And I realized, okay, it's going to be uncomfortable, but I'll still be alive. So my thinking was so extreme. It's like, okay, I'm either feeling like okay, like over here on this spectrum, or the other side is this thing is going to kill me. This is going to kill me. If I take 3 steps a bit too fast, this thing could literally kill me. I'm just going to explode. That was my mindset at the time. It was so extreme. But then when he told me, no, like you'll do some things, but all you're doing is adding stimulus on the body. So yeah, you'll feel more symptoms and more symptoms and more symptoms. And by the way, Miguel, it's not just physical things, it's emotional things. That's what's going to add to the symptoms. So when he told me that, I kind of found the gray zone. And I realized, okay, this whole time I thought this was going to literally wipe me out. And so that went from black and white thinking to thinking, okay, if I even reach for a straw or like a fork and put it in my mouth, that's going to make me crash. I went from that to, oh, I could grab the fork and put something in my mouth and it will feel uncomfortable. When I adopted that thinking, within a week, I went from basically being a vegetable to sitting in a wheelchair. rolling around on my own, laughing with people, meeting new people in the hospital. So there was that. That was 1 week, right? And keep in mind, the 7 months prior, I was wrecked. I was on a quick downward spiral, getting worse, severely depressed, severely hopeless. And then within a week, I made more progress that 1 week than I did in the previous 8 months combined. More progress in that 1 week. And guess what happened the following week? I went from moving around in a wheelchair, graduated to a walker. So I'm walking around in a walker, knowing that the symptoms are going to come, knowing that I'm going to have to go through these progress cycles, right? So within 2 weeks, I go from a vegetable basically to walking around in a walker. Within 3 weeks, they get rid of the walker. I just wake up one day and they say, and there's no walker by my bed. I said, "Where's my walker?" And the doctor said, "Yeah, you don't need it. You're ready." I said, "Really? You don't think I need another month in the walker?" Like, I get moving from a wheelchair to a walker, but walking on my own, I was thinking like another month or two. I said, "No, you're ready now. I mean, you know what's going on. You've been responding well to symptoms. Let's do it." So even myself, with the amount of progress I was having, I was ecstatic to just be out of the bed. First of all, I remember that first week in a wheelchair, that felt like Disneyland every day. It felt like Christmas morning. I was just so happy every single morning to go sit in a wheelchair all day and roll around. And then I was super happy with the walker. And then so we got rid of the walker, and I'm standing on my own 2 feet. Of course, this whole time my legs are super sore because I had very little to no muscle on my legs. Like my thigh was maybe as skinny as my arm, right? So I have a picture of it. Let me see if Instagram's still going. When Instagram ends, I'll show you guys a picture. Pretty much, it's crazy. Um, so I graduated to walking around, and then I got discharged the following week after that. So I basically went from a vegetable to walking around, driving, walking my dog like 300 steps outside my house within a month. But the most important thing, it wasn't so much the physical improvement. I mean, that was great. The mental improvement was great. The greatest thing with all of this was finally having a plan in place to get my life back. Finally having a roadmap, a clear, proven roadmap, because he had done this with a few other people too, that were as severe as me. Just knowing that I had a clear plan in place made all the difference. So I didn't care if I was in an adjustment period. I didn't care if I was having any symptoms flare up, because I knew what the trajectory of recovery was. I knew I was going to have flare ups, and I knew that was the boss level, or the boss of the level. That was my way to get to the next level. And it wasn't a roadblock, it was a speed bump. And I internalized these concepts and applied them. And today I'm here. That was 5 years ago, getting out of the hospital 5.5 years ago. And then now I have my life back. I've done more in the past 2 years than I ever thought I'd do in my life. I thought my life was over. So, sometimes it feels like you're coming to the closing chapter in the book. The book is coming to an end. That's what it felt like for me, because I really did not see past 23 years old. But 23 years old, that's the day my life kind of began. My life restarted. I don't want to say restarted. I got a second chance at life the day after I turned 23, because that's the day I was released from the hospital. And I was basically sent back into the world again, a different Miguel. And I can happily say that I still do have some traits that old Miguel had. I like to work very hard. I like to be very productive, but now I have the balance. I know when to pull back. I take care of my body, not only just physically, but my mental health. I know when things are starting to spiral and get out of control in my own mind, and I'm able to handle it well. At least I would like to believe. So I think when you go through this process, right? I've said this in a video before, but you live 3 lives. I think when you have CFS, your first life is the life prior to getting sick. That's who you were, growing up. That's the identity you had. right? That was your first life. And then CFS hits you, or long COVID, or fibromyalgia, or something happens that completely derails your life. And you can no longer be that person you were, right? So then you kind of start the second life. And it is a very challenging one, right? But challenge breeds growth. I think during this time, you've had so much time to reflect on what you've done in your life, the decisions you made, but also who you are as a person. Who actually gets to sit down all day and go through their own thoughts all day, every day for weeks and months? People don't usually do that. You know why? Because it's difficult. Monks do that. They go to the mountains and do that, but you're doing that right now. So you're on your second life. It's the life, the journey of discovery, the journey of self-improvement, of self kind of reflection, of deep self-reflection. That's the phase you guys are in if you're watching this right now. And that's your second life, right? Your third life, this is the exciting part, is the product of going through all that self-reflection and changing mental habits and building resilience. So just like I said earlier, your goal shouldn't be to go back to the life you had before. It should go beyond that, right? So when you start your third life, you go back into the world equipped with almost like an unfair advantage. You can handle stress better than most people, right? If a car cuts you off down the road and you're on the highway, or someone's rude to you at a restaurant, guess what? That's not as bad as not being able to walk to the washroom. So your tolerance for stress and adversity is way up here once you come out of this thing. Whether you want to run a business or start something, or you're faced with any challenges in life, it's not going to be as hard as what you're going through right now. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. When your life is on the line, which it feels like it is for some of you guys, life after this is fairly easy compared to that, right? There's still some challenging times. I deal with a lot of stress and challenging things, but I can always go back to kind of what I've been through, and I can look at my current situation and see it as icing on the cake, really. So hope that helps you guys. Let me know if this is resonating with you guys, because I want to make sure you guys are getting value. You guys are learning and really soaking up all this information. So let me know. Comment. Absolutely. We don't want the same driven behaviors that got us in trouble. We want better versions of who we were. Absolutely. That you're going for the 2.0 version, not back to 1.0 version. That was your previous life. 2.0 version. Okay. We're going to keep on going, actually. I know I said 90 minutes, but I messaged Coach Junior. He's had like 7 or 8 check-in calls today, but we're very fortunate that he's willing to come on here and share this great theory. So I just sent him the link. He's going to be on here very shortly, and I would love for you guys to hear from him as well, right? So as we come into the new year, the year is coming to an end, of course. 2024 is coming. It's another opportunity, another swing at the bat of life for you to reclaim your life and get your life back and do all the things you want to do. And it's absolutely possible. A lot of you on this call right now, by springtime, you'll have your life back. By summertime, you'll have your life back. By fall, you'll be traveling and working again and doing all these things that you might have thought would take years. It could happen in months. Or maybe you think it would take decades. No, it's not going to take 3 decades. It's going to take 9 months. So once you get on the right track in recovery, it just gives you this whole other sense of confidence, this whole other sense of kind of well-being. And even though you may not be as functional as you want to be, you're on this journey and you actually start to enjoy the process of recovery. So all right, we have Junior here. I'm going to let him in a second. We're very lucky to have him because he is sick, but I know he cares a lot about you guys. Junior, can you hear me? Okay, I think I have to add you to the stage.
There we go.
Boom. Yep, I can hear you. All right.
All
Shout out to
right.
Coach Junior. He's been implementing the gray theory along with the other coaches, and we've been seeing a lot of breakthroughs. But I just wanted you to kind of share some of it.
Of course, man. Have you shared some of it already?
Yeah, a little bit. I
Yeah.
went over it for about 5 minutes, but I feel like you could explain it even better.
Of course. Yeah. Let me hop on really quick, man. I'll share it for a few minutes and then I'll go eat lunch afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So really quick, folks, for gray theory, this is something we've been implementing in the program within the past few weeks. We've just introduced this. And so here's what gray theory is. Gray is the color in between black and white, right? And a lot of people in the program, both in Jumpstart and Academy, know that I preach the B word. Now, I'm not talking about the female dog, I'm talking about balance. And balance is really important because it helps us stay very subtly and gently in the middle. And here's what I'm talking about when it comes to gray theory and balance, because all these words can come off as really confusing if you don't know what I'm trying to say. So, if you guys have ever heard of the phrase black and white thinking or black and white personality, this is a very radical way of doing things. It's a very almost absolute way of doing things, right? Now, in recovery, you want to stay as far from black and white as you possibly can and be more in the gray. So, when it comes to black and white, we're not just talking about responding well to symptoms. When it comes to black and white, there's three main places that we try to laser in on for clients and thrivers. And that would be personality, that would be emotional response, but the number one thing that's probably overlooked is actually physical black and white behaviors. But before I talk about physical black and white behaviors, let's talk about the first two. Now, the first two Miguel talks about and speaks about in our hundreds of YouTube videos over and over and over. He's indirectly teaching you how to be more gray when it comes to your personality, when it comes to your emotional response. So, when it comes to, let me give you an example of a black and white personality trait, right? Is somebody who excessively doesn't know how to say no to people, someone who excessively is a people pleaser, somebody who has tendencies to excessively overdo things, to excessively overthink, right? That's a personality trait that's done in a very black and white way that must be practiced in a more balanced way. Notice how I said it doesn't need to be practiced in the equal but opposite extreme, because if I teach you to do the equal and opposite extreme, you're going back into black and white behavior. So I'm not trying to teach an overthinker to not think at all, because that's black and white, going from one extreme to another. I'm trying to teach an overthinker just to think less in a more healthy and balanced way. I'm not trying to teach somebody who has suppressed their emotions to let out all of the emotions all at once. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to teach you to be a little bit more vulnerable and emotionally open in a more balanced way instead of swinging to the other way, right? Now that what is when it comes to personality. Now when it comes to emotions, now, if you are, extremely fearful of the symptoms of the illness, I'm not trying to teach you to be completely 100% fearless. I'm just trying to teach you how to fear the symptoms a little bit less in a more balanced and healthy way. That's the thing. If you are, let's say, instead of fearful, more so worried, or maybe don't believe 100% that it's the nervous system, I don't need you to 1,000% believe. I just need you to believe it's the nervous system a little bit more in a balanced way. You do that enough and you can gray out those things. And everyone has their own gray personality traits, whether it's body image, self confidence, fear, overdoing it, people pleaser, saying no, whatever it is. Everyone has their own thing that they practice in excess that leans more towards black and white, that must be grayed out just to stay a little bit more healthy and in the middle. Now, the number one thing that's overlooked is physical black and white behaviors. Whilst we can teach you to respond well, whilst we can teach you to get a handle on your emotions, that's only half the battle. Because again, I don't like this phrase, but I'll say it and I'll throw it out there. This is mind body, which means this is brain and nervous system. If we're teaching you to be more gray with your personality and with your emotions, that's graying out the mind. But somebody could have a perfectly gray mind and a balanced mind, but still have an imbalanced black and white bodily physical behavior. That's the thing. You need to address and gray out both. So, how we gray out physical behaviors is first showing you how and what black and white physical behaviors look like in the body. So, I'll give you an example of a black and white behavior physically. So, black and white behavior physically would be somebody going out for a walk and standing and being in a mobilized upright standing position, and then coming home, immediately taking your shoes off and laying flat right away, going into an immobilized laying position. That's extremely polarizing and black and white. That is very, very black and white physical behavior. You need to gray that behavior out by doing the thing that takes place in the middle. Instead of walking upright and being in a mobilized position to immediately laying down, what I'm having these folks do is coming back from their walks and going into a sitting or upright position or putting around the house a little bit gently before they sit upright on your couch and then lay down, instead of going from such a polarizing upright mobilized to immediately laying down, because that's extremely black and white physical behavior. That's the thing you don't want to do. Another example of extreme black and white physical behavior is you could expand activity during your expansion days all in one go, all in one big burst. So it's like you're doing nothing throughout the day. You'll have like one short period of the day where you're expanding activity and maybe going for your walk, and then the rest of the day you're doing nothing again. Again, this is really black and white, all or nothing behavior. Instead, I would have you practice more gray personality, gray physical behaviors. And instead of doing one big expansion throughout the middle of the day and for the rest of the day you rest, I would have you sprinkle in the activity throughout the day to make it more gray. So instead of one long 40-minute walk, I would have you do like 5, I don't know, 10-minute walks or something like that, or 4 10-minute walks sprinkled throughout the day. That's much, much more gray. Now, that's physical behaviors. And then the last point that I want to talk about here is graying out symptom severity. When you think about all or nothing, you think about 0 or 100, right? But if you're trying to gray out black and white physical behaviors, your symptoms should never be 100. But here's the thing that a lot of people also don't understand. Your symptoms should never be 0 either. This is where a lot of people get caught up and they make the mistake. They think, okay, I just flared up, I'm going into an adjustment period. I'm telling you guys right now, if you're waiting for your symptoms to hit nothing or 0, you're practicing black and white behavior again. Your symptoms should never hit 0. If you are one of those people that flares up, rests, and waits for your adjustment period to come all the way down to 0, I'm telling you right now, you're waiting too long. That's the thing. Miguel gives an excellent analogy when it comes to a car. So imagine a car with the speedometer maxed out at 50. You never want to hit the gas until the speed limit hits 50. You never want to push on the brakes until the car hits 0 miles an hour. What you want to do is slowly touch on the gas until it hits 40 miles an hour, and then let go of the gas till it slows down to 20 miles an hour, and then slowly start hitting the gas again until it goes up to 40. That's more gray behavior. So what does that mean on a symptom severity scale? It means the lowest your symptoms should probably get that you want to wait for before expanding activity is a 2 to 3 out of 10. The highest you want to go when you're expanding activity before you pull back and rest a little bit more is a 6 to 7 out of 10. Now, that's subjective to everybody's personal journey, right? So if we're going to equate numbers to a feeling, a 2 to 3 out of 10 is mild but manageable. If it's mild but manageable, go. If it's a 6 to 7 out of 10, that's quite noticeably uncomfortable. If it is, pull back and do a little bit less. But it's always do a little bit more on days where you feel okay, do a little bit less on days where you don't, but never stop doing. That's where momentum stops, is when you stop doing and you take days and days or weeks and weeks at a time where you just rest and pull back and wait for symptoms to hit 0. That's not going to happen. Okay. So that's just summing up in a few minutes what black and white behaviors are and then how you gray them out. Now, in the program, we work with everyone on an individual level. So I give you guys an individualized plan on what that specifically looks like for you, because everyone has their own black and white behaviors that they do, because everyone has their own past, their own lives. And, they've been sculpted in a different way by the time they reach me or Miguel or Adrian or Krista or Colin or what have you. Right. So your plan will be very specific to you. Maybe you heard this and you already are aware of your black and white behaviors and you can gray yourselves out right now after this call. That's wonderful. But for those who need the help, Miguel provides an excellent resource using this program. But I hope you guys got some value out of this. Miguel, do you know what hot pot is? Because I'm going to go do that right now.
I love hot pot. I might get some later, actually.
Hell yeah.
With Asian food?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, dude. Well, glad to see you're feeling better. Go get some hot pot. Really appreciate it, guys. And does that make sense for everybody? Let's just see some comments because we've been getting good feedback this whole call. But that was a great breakdown you just had.
Good.
By the way, guys, like this is the kind of stuff we talk about all the time on the weekly coaching calls and stuff within the program. But yeah, let's see. I just want to see your thoughts, guys. Was that super helpful? Got some good takeaways? Yeah.
Awesome. Dude. You're killing it, man. I got to watch a little bit of the live stream in between my check-in calls because this is a huge check-in call day. I'm just talking to clients all day back to back on these one-on-one calls. But I'm seeing what you're doing. I saw the diagrams and stuff, man.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. But go get some hot pot. Appreciate you, man. We'll probably be here for another 15 minutes, but we'll catch up later.
Cool. Thanks, brother. All right. Catch you later, man.
Take it easy, dude.
Peace.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so that's Coach Junior. Coach Junior, first coach in the program, actually, believe it or not this January, but like the previous January in 2022, he came into the program. He was sick, could barely get off the couch, heart palpitations, body aches and pains, all of that stuff. Now he's helping a lot of people recover, and he is bringing in a lot of great ideas into the program. And what we do is all the coaches work together. Like I said at the beginning of this call, we see patterns. We see what's working, what's not working, not with just a few people, with hundreds of people. And we're compiling all this data together to make sure we're doing our best to help you guys get your life back, not just the quickest way possible, but the most efficient way possible. And not only get your life back, but keep your life back. No relapsing, any of that stuff, right? So we're building a strong foundation for your future of thriving health. So for the last 10 to 15 minutes here, it's been a great chat. I just want to make an announcement. We have 4 groups starting in January for Recovery Jumpstart. Now, there's a few different ways we can help you. There's different kind of levels to it. Obviously, there's all this free content on YouTube, Facebook, my Instagram. In fact, this month alone on YouTube, I'm posting 4 YouTube videos a week, long episodes, in addition to just recovery stories, because we want to support you guys through these tough holidays. It's always tough during this time. But if you did want extra help after that, there's also Recovery Academy, which people have been absolutely crushing it. If you guys are in Academy, comment down below how you guys are finding that. We're getting a lot of recovery stories just through that. So there's Recovery Academy, and that one is there's no long-term contract there. You can do it month to month, and it's mainly group coaching calls. You get access to the community, and then you have one roadmap call, one check-in where we sit down and do a nervous system health assessment and figure out your roadblocks and come up with a 30-day plan for you. And then it's just month to month. So yeah, we got a bunch of people in here from Academy. It's great to see you guys. We love those Academy calls. And then we have Recovery Jumpstart. That's where we work very closely with you for 12 months. And in addition to the group calls and your roadmap plan, you can access the private chats with the coaches. You can message us 5 days a week. Anything you need help with recovery related, we're here to help. And then, it's just really getting that extra support that a lot of people need if they can, financially, if it makes financial sense for them. But if not, that's where the Recovery Academy comes in. It's a more affordable source. But I just want to answer any questions you guys have. What questions do you have about our programs and how we can help you? I know there's probably some questions. Yeah, the cost of Academy, it's $297 per month, right? And you could cancel anytime. So you come in, you get access to 4 group coaching calls a week. These calls are about an hour and a half. They're lots of fun. Learn a lot of cool things on it. But yeah, it's $297 a month. You can cancel at any time. We are doing a special where if you join, you could get 3 months and then 1 extra month for free, actually, for any newcomers. Yep. So even if you're in other countries, you can watch the replays of the calls. There's a lot of really, really good replays. Actually, every Academy call is great. People love it. But also another cool thing I do want to show you guys, because we talk a lot about the success stories and how people are getting better, but what is stronger than my word for it and other people's word is actual proof. So let me show you something we're actually implementing in January for Recovery Jumpstart. Let's see. We're implementing recovery dashboards. So this is how we know for a fact 100% that you are getting better and making progress. We do these monthly surveys with people. We're going to be able to see symptoms improving, right? So when it gets to a 5, that means you're good to go, right? Also, we're going to be able to track your physical progress, your cognitive progress, and your emotional progress, because those are the 3 main buckets we focus on. Just like with what Junior said, we help create a plan. We kind of attack these 3 different areas, and we'll be able to see for sure, okay, we're getting better. We're getting better. Okay, it was this big adjustment period month, but we bounced back just like that. And then we're able to look at your nervous system as a whole. The goal is to get you into the green here. If you're bedridden, you're in freeze. You're bedridden. There's semi-freeze, sympathetic. Each of these different stages has a very specific plan for recovery, right? And that's where most people can get lost. It can be very confusing because what you do in this stage down here, for example, it's going to be different from what is ideal to do in this stage and transitioning from this stage to this stage. So that's where we come in. We do all kind of the confusing thinking for you guys and help make decisions in your plans and everything. Of course, you don't absolutely need this to recover, but it definitely helps and helps it go by a lot faster. So this is something cool we're implementing in January. And yeah, it won't overwhelm the coaches because we built the software ourselves. This is what I've been working on the back end. It's a custom software. But what other questions you guys have? Got 130 people on here in total. You must have some questions. Any questions about the programs, Jumpstart, Academy, things like that? Let's hear it. Okay, let's see. Any questions about the program? Yeah, so specifically questions about the program. Any questions about the program? Well, this one's quick. Yes, I did feel a lot of electricity in my body. Definitely a lot. Very common. This one, I have a video about this. So go check out my YouTube channel. Just search up CFS recovery working a job, and then you'll see that video there. I go into detail. Is there a wait list? Right now, well, there are limited spots. So once we do get full, there would be a wait list. And the next time to join Jumpstart would be in likely late February. And actually, yeah, Jumpstart's going to be awesome. And then after that, we'll probably do 1 group a month versus 2 or 3 a month, because we want to shift actually focus to Academy, like for new people coming in, just because we've been getting great results there. People have been loving it, and we could fit a lot more people on those calls. So Jumpstart's great. After January, we won't be pushing Jumpstart as much. If people want to join Jumpstart, they would likely do it through Academy. We want them to do Academy first. Hey, try Academy, Let's make sure it's the right fit, and then boom, then we would bring them into Jumpstart. But yeah, Jumpstart is great. I think for a lot of people, it's just easier to try out Academy first and then join Academy. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, Jumpstart and Academy, very different. Very different. Jumpstart is 12 months, and basically you're buying your recovery. Like, we work very closely with you. You have one-on-one check-in calls every month with the coach, in addition to group coaching calls, and you have a private chat with the coaches. So like, you'd be able to talk to Junior and the other coaches as well, and you get an updated plan constantly. That's Jumpstart, and that one, it's $6K US, and you could spread it out over payments. Academy, on the other hand, it's mainly group coaching, but you do get your one check-in call after your first 7 days, and then you get access to video modules as well. And Academy is $297 per month, but you can cancel anytime. So I always tell people, if you're even on the fence about it, try Academy, because you're gonna love it. And it's very low risk for people. And most people try other programs as well, but they don't have that live interaction. It's a very close, intimate group, and if it ever gets to the point where there's too many people on calls, we just add more calls to Academy, and spread it out, because we have plenty of coaches who are ready to help. Yeah, Academy has lots of community support and a lot more. Got some people who love the Academy. So I'll post a link. After this call to our different social media platforms. You can check them out. But obviously, you don't have to do a program to get better. You can get better on your own. But if you just want some extra help, you want it to be a bit faster, a bit easier, that's what we're here for. We're here to just like today, we give all the information for free. What you're really paying for is help for implementing the information. So yeah, awesome. That should be it. Doesn't seem like there's any more questions. Hope you guys got a lot out of this one. If you did want to apply for Recovery Jumpstart, definitely apply, because the first week of January, this January, this previous one, we had like, I think it was it was more than that. It was like 300 people apply, and there were like 30 spots. So if you want to apply for Jumpstart, apply now. And if you qualify, then you'd be able to book a call in our team's calendar. I have my calendar open, and as well as our onboarding team. But you can book it for like next week. Normally, you can only book within 3 days, but we open it up because Christmas is coming up. So if you are looking to get into Academy, book your application call, and we'll see if it's a good fit. If not, we'll refer you out to some other resources. If it is, then we'll let you know what we can do for you. Let's see. How many people per call with Academy? I think like 50. Sometimes I've seen like 10, sometimes 10 to 20. I'd say around there. 15 to 20 on Academy. Yeah, 15. I'll apply for Academy in January. No, apply now, because there's going to be no spots in January. I just apply now, honestly, and then just book your call for next week or later this week. Can you answer my question? What is your question, Pradip? Yeah, so this, I'll let you be the last question. Then I'll hop off in a minute or two. What's your question, Pradip? Let's see. You guys get some golden nuggets out of this call, though? Find it helpful? Adjustment periods. So we talked about dealing with flare-ups, dealing with progress cycles, and dealing with flare-ups, dealing with progress cycles, and gray thinking. Yeah. Okay. Pradip says it is in the chat. Yep, I know it's in the chat, but I'm getting like hundreds of comments from multiple different platforms. Okay, I see it. For some reason, I'm feeling sleepy and dizziness so much and blurry vision. Okay, I don't see the question in there. Are you asking if that's normal? Because if you're asking if that's normal, that's definitely normal. Dizziness, blurry vision, shaky vision, very, very common, super common. So very normal. Cool. Awesome, everybody. Well, glad you got some value out of this one. Watch this one back for sure, especially Junior's part where he talks about the gray thinking, because that's going to be a huge help in recovery. It's helped so many people in our program. So that's why I wanted to bring this information to you guys. So in the meantime, let's see. Okay, one more question. I want to say, Marsh, are you recommend? Yeah. Oh, for Academy. I want to join for Academy, I would say just join as soon as you can. I mean, the faster you join, the faster you recover. So I wouldn't wait. Well, you could wait, but it's just going to take longer. So awesome, everybody. We'll take it easy, and we'll see you guys on the next call. See you guys.